Unexpected legacy revealed. How one heartwarming letter changed my grandmother's life forever. Maya's heart raced as she opened the dusty box in her grandmother Ruth's attic. Had the weight of her student debt and double shifts at the diner driven her to search for forgotten treasures? Or was it fate? As she removed a delicate, yellowing envelope addressed to Ruth from a soldier during World War II, a rush of curiosity consumed her. What secrets lay within? The afternoon sun filtered through the cobwebbed window, illuminating the room, and she swallowed hard, feeling the past beckon her closer. With trembling hands, she tore open the envelope, revealing a letter filled with words so tender they felt alive. "My dearest Ruth," it began, sparking a flood of emotion that made her heart clench. It was a love letter brimming with longing and devotion, a side of her grandmother she had never known. Maya read aloud, tracing the penmanship with her fingers, as her voice thickened with nostalgia. The soldier, lost in a faraway land, poured out his heart to a woman who held hope and dreams despite the brutal circumstances of war. Maya felt an ache in her chest as she realized they, too, were facing crushing economic hardships that nearly mirrored her own. As she immersed herself in their struggle, she could practically hear the whispers of her grandmother's legacy, the good deeds, the tireless devotion to the town, how Ruth had instilled strength in everyone around her. Tears filled Maya's eyes as she wondered how her grandmother transformed pain into compassion. "I want to honor you," Maya whispered, but uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Just when Maya thought she had turned a corner, an unexpected opportunity knocked, a corporate job with a salary that could change everything. Suddenly, relief was so close, it buzzed in her chest. But this new path threatened to pull her away from the rich, close-knit community her grandmother cherished so dearly. Would she trade her soul for a paycheck? Maya shuddered at the thought. "This is what you worked for," she reminded herself, her conscience battling her heart. The first week was a whirlwind of cold boardrooms and soulless conference calls. The sterile walls of her new office whispered doubt, and Maya felt the small-town warmth slip through her fingers like sand. Each day, she would return home, the headlights of her car cutting through the darkness, and face her grandmother, whose eyes sparkled with encouragement but held a shadow of concern. The love letter had created ripples, had opened old wounds in their conversations, making them linger on unspoken sacrifices and dreams deferred. As tension grew between them, Maya finally dug deeper into the letters. With each revelation came painful truths about the burdens her grandmother bore, unspoken pressures that mirrored her own. Maya remembered how Ruth had selflessly given back to the town, lifting spirits when times got tough, and suddenly found herself at a crossroad, seeking clarity. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Maya clutched the letter as if it held the key to her future, pondering her next move. The weight of her past and her grandmother's sacrifices pushed against her chest. What would she choose? The allure of success, or the sense of belonging that lifted her spirits? With the setting sun casting shadows on her dilemma, uncertainty loomed heavily as Maya gazed out the attic window, her heart racing between two worlds, an urgent yearning within her to honor the spirit that built her, or to carve her own destiny in the unfamiliar land of ambition. Maya spent the next few days wrestling with her thoughts, the letter now a familiar weight in her pocket. Each word echoed in her mind, reminding her of the warmth and sacrifices of her grandmother's past. The letters weren't just ink on paper, they were a lifeline to a past filled with hope and love during a time of war. That weekend, she sat at her grandmother's kitchen table, the aroma of fresh-baked cookies hanging in the air. Ruth was at the sink, washing dishes, her hands busy while her mind seemed lost in thought. There was a silence larger than the room, and Maya knew they both felt it. She took a deep breath, summoning her courage. "Grandma, can we talk about the letters?" The words tumbled out, and she watched as Ruth turned slowly, her face a mix of emotion, surprise, understanding, perhaps even fear. "Which letters, sweetheart?" Ruth replied, though they both knew it wasn't just any letters. Maya reached into her pocket, pulling out the worn envelope as if it were something sacred. She laid it softly on the table between them. The one from the soldier, it's beautiful. I had no idea you experienced so much. Ruth dried her hands, taking in the subtle shift in their conversation. That was a long time ago, Maya. I tried to bury those memories. Maya hesitated, feeling the weight of her grandmother's words. But why? You gave so much to everyone else. You made a difference. Ruth's eyes softened, but the shadows grew deeper. Sometimes, it's easier to stay buried than to face the pain. The soldier was part of a time I didn't want to revisit. But it wasn't just pain, Grandma. It was love. It was hope. Maya's voice trembled with a mix of frustration and empathy. He loved you, and you loved him. Why keep it hidden? You have so much to offer the world. The silence that hung between them felt like a storm ready to break. Ruth pulled the letter closer, tracing the faded ink with her fingers. It's complicated, my dear. There are things you don't understand: guilt, choices made, dreams sacrificed. Maya felt a knot grow in her chest. Were they more alike than she realized? The idea both scared and comforted her. I'm standing at a crossroads too, Grandma. I have this job offer that could change everything for me. But it doesn't feel right. I don't want to lose what matters. Ruth's gaze held hers, pierced with understanding. It was a family trait, this unspoken connection, a language only they shared. You are like me, Maya. Our hearts want to tread on paths of service, not just ambition. Maya swallowed hard, grateful for the acknowledgement. So what do I do? Do I follow the dream of success and chase after a paycheck, or do I choose the community, the love? Ruth leaned in, her expression softening further. It's not about choosing one over the other. It's about finding a way to blend them. You can create your own legacy, just like I did. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Maya felt a flicker of clarity for the first time. Maybe she didn't have to abandon her dreams for belonging. Instead, she might forge a new path, one that honored both her ambitions and her grandmother's legacy. Yet, as she sat there, she couldn't shake the creeping doubt in her heart. What if she failed to balance it all? With resolve slowly building within her, Maya made a promise to herself. She would dive deeper into the letters, into her grandmother's past, searching for the guidance woven into their shared experiences. But just as she gathered her thoughts, the doorbell rang, interrupting their moment. Who could it be? Maya's heart raced again. She felt the pull of fate, wondering if this could be another sign. With a swift glance at Ruth, she stood and headed toward the door. What awaited her on the other side could change everything. What was she about to discover? Maya opened the door slowly, her heart drumming in her chest. The late afternoon light streamed in, illuminating the figure standing before her. It was a man, tall and slightly weathered, with deep-set eyes that held a familiar spark. Hello, is Ruth here? He asked, his voice a warm, gentle rumble. Maya felt a sudden pull of recognition. Are you? It's me, Thomas, he replied, a slow smile spreading across his face. Ruth's voice came from the kitchen, surprise lacing her tone. Thomas? You're here. Maya stepped aside, allowing him to enter. Her mind raced. The name echoed in her grandmother's letters, images of youthful love and hope flashing in her mind. Had she been ready for this? As Thomas stepped into the kitchen, Ruth's expression transformed. She stood frozen for a moment, a delicate mix of disbelief and emotions flickering across her face. Then she rushed forward, enveloping him in a tight embrace. Maya, Ruth said, her voice thick with tears, this is the soldier, the one from my letters. Maya's entire world seemed to tilt. The fragile thread of time unraveled as Thomas pulled back to look at Ruth. I received a letter from you not long ago. I thought you'd want to see me after all this time. Maya watched intently. They were both caught in a rekindled history, a moment suspended between the past and the present. Ruth's hands trembled slightly as she reached out to touch Thomas's arm. "I never thought." Ruth began, her words falling under the weight of old memories. "I thought all was lost." Maya stood, rooted to the spot, feeling the clash of confusion and excitement. She didn't want to intrude on this sacred reunion but couldn't help but feel swept up in it. "Grandma, what happened between you two?" Ruth turned to her, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "It's a long story, sweet girl. One filled with love, a promise, and a heartbreak I didn't expect to face again." Thomas nodded, his gaze softening as he spoke. "Life took me on a different path, but the love we had never truly vanished, did it, Ruth?" With that, the air thickened with possibility. Maya's heart ached, pulled in multiple directions. She wanted her grandmother to find happiness, yet how would this impact her own journey? Ruth looked between Thomas and Maya, the ghosts of unspoken words hanging between them. "Maya, sometimes we think we've buried our past, but it can come back when we least expect it." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, her pulse quickening. "In the letter you found, I wrote of choices and sacrifices." "I thought that chapter was over." Ruth's voice faltered as Thomas stepped closer, an unspoken understanding bridging the gaps of lost time. Maya felt a dozen questions rising inside her. Did this mean there was more to uncover? Could the letters lead to healing past wounds for her grandmother? And what about her own delicate balance between dreams and family? The tension in the air shimmered, electric with unrealized potential. "Maybe," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper, "those letters could guide us all right now." As the words hung in the air, she realized this unexpected meeting wasn't just about history, it was a chance for renewal for both her grandmother and herself. But could they truly rewrite their stories together, or would the past keep them apart once again? With a shaky breath, Maya glanced at Ruth and Thomas. Their eyes sparkled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. What would happen next? Just then, Ruth cleared her throat. "Maybe we should sit down and talk." "There's so much to say." Maya nodded, a smile creeping across her face, yet the question remained. What revelations awaited them as they began to unravel the layers of their shared past? Ruth shuffled to the small dining table, her hands shaking a little as she pulled out 2 chairs. Thomas followed her, his presence both comforting and slightly overwhelming to Maya. She perched on the edge of her seat, anticipation buzzing in the air like static electricity. Ruth sat first, then motioned for Thomas to take the chair across from her. "Let me get us some tea. It's going to be a long talk." She stood again, her fragility a stark contrast to Thomas's solid strength. The kettle whistled, and Maya caught herself staring at the two of them. "So, Thomas, what brought you back here after all these years?" The question felt loaded, like a pebble dropped into a still pond, the ripple spreading wide that he rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous gesture. "I've been thinking a lot about the past. Life can be funny that way. I found that letter, the one from Ruth, and it made me realize how much I missed everything." His eyes settled on Ruth, a soft warmth radiating from him. Maya watched Ruth's face as a smile began to bloom, the kind that seemed to erase a lifetime of worry. "What did it say?" "The letter, I mean?" Maya asked, hesitating as she wanted to dive deeper yet feared crossing an unseen boundary. That Ruth's expression turned contemplative. "It spoke of love and lost chances. I shared my heart with the words I thought I'd buried long ago. I thought my life would move on, but it didn't. Not entirely." Her voice caught, but she took a deep breath and pressed on. "I thought you were gone for good, Thomas. I never expected to hear from you again." Thomas reached out, his hand briefly covering Ruth's. "I never stopped thinking about you, Ruth. You were always there, in my heart." Maya felt the weight of their history. This was more than just a conversation, it was a connection that spanned decades. In her own heart, she felt the stirrings of hope. Maybe their stories were meant to intertwine, not just hers and her grandmother's but also Thomas's. "What have you been doing all these years?" Maya asked, curiosity getting the better of her. Thomas leaned back slightly, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. After the war, I traveled a bit. I needed to find myself again after everything I went through. I got lost along the way, in a way. He paused, as if choosing his next words carefully. But when I found that letter of yours, Ruth, it sparked something in me, the idea that maybe I could find my way back. Ruth's eyes shone with unshed tears. So you felt the same pull? More than I can say. He smiled softly, every word blending with a kind of shared past that only they could understand fully. Maya couldn't help but wonder about her own journey, her own pulls. What did she want out of life? How could she serve as a bridge between this reunion and her dreams? The thought of lost opportunities crept into her mind. Maybe all this is meant to show us something, Maya said, her voice gentle but filled with conviction. We can all find our way back if we're willing to uncover the past. Ruth nodded, a resolute look settling on her face. You're right, dear. There's so much we can learn from our stories. Thomas added, and from each other. As Maya felt a rush of warmth at their words, the phone rang, breaking the moment's intimacy. Ruth looked up, a frown creasing her brow. I'll get it. While her grandmother stepped away, the air thick with unspoken thoughts, Maya turned to Thomas. Do you think just then, the door swung open, cutting her off? A woman stepped in, her eyes wide with shock. Ruth. I heard he was back, but I didn't think. Maya's heart raced. Who was this newcomer? What did she want? The door had opened wider, revealing shadows of what could come next, and Maya held her breath, knowing that their shared stories might just be about to take another turn. Would this new challenge add another layer to their lives or unravel what had just begun? Maya watched as the woman stepped further into the room, her presence a force that filled the already crowded space. The newcomer's long hair pooled around her shoulders, framing a face touched by both surprise and determination. Thomas shifted slightly in his chair, his earlier warmth replaced by something more cautious, more wary. Who are you? Maya found herself asking before she could think twice. The question hung in the air, that subtle charge of curiosity and perhaps a hint of apprehension weaving through her words. Sorry to barge in like this. I'm Helen, the woman said, her voice steady, though her eyes sparkled with uncertainty. I heard about Thomas coming back, and well, I had to see for myself. Ruth returned to the table, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. Helen, it's been years. What brings you back here? This is quite the surprise. Helen cleared her throat, as if bracing herself for whatever tempest might follow. I found out about Thomas, and I felt it was important for you to know about the letter. She paused, the weight of her words thickening the atmosphere. Ruth wilted slightly at the mention of the letter, her face clouded with confusion. What do you mean? Do you know something I don't? Thomas's eyes narrowed, a protective instinct flaring up. What letter, Helen? The one Ruth wrote? Helen nodded slowly, as if the reality of her words was only just settling into place. Yes, but there's more to it. I thought it was finally time to come clean. The letter, it wasn't just about you and Thomas, Ruth. It connected all of us in a way you never imagined. Maya could feel the tension rising again, like a tight ball building in the pit of her stomach. She exchanged a quick glance with Thomas, who looked equally bewildered. What's that supposed to mean? Maya asked, her voice rising a bit louder than intended. What are you trying to say? Helen took a deep breath, her eyes darting from Ruth to Thomas to Maya, gauging their reactions. When I read Ruth's letter, I discovered there were more connections between Thomas and me more than we both realized. Our paths crossed in ways I had no idea about until very recently. Ruth recoiled, her hand instinctively gripping the edge of the table as if steadying herself against the flood of revelations. What do you want from us, Helen? I want you to know that sometimes history has a way of catching up with us, Helen replied, her voice softening. And that things aren't always what they seem. It may sound crazy, but our lives, they intertwine in ways we can't fully understand. The love, the hurt, the choices made, they ripple through generations. You might even say it was destiny that brought me here. Maya felt dizzy. The room felt too small for all the emotions swirling inside it. She couldn't shake the thought of what this could mean. Are you saying there's something in our families that connects us all? Yes, and it's more significant than any of us could have known before now, Helen affirmed, her gaze unflinching. There's a reason I've come. There's a story we need to uncover, and it starts with truth and healing. Thomas broke the tension, leaning forward, his voice resolute. If we're going to do this, we all need to be honest with one another. No more secrets. We deserve to know everything. Maya nodded, feeling like she had stepped onto a path that might lead her to not just answers but new beginnings. She glanced at Ruth, who wore an expression of determination mixed with trepidation. The room felt charged, their collective heartbeat matching the intensity of the conversation, but as they all leaned into the story unfolding before them, Maya felt the undeniable pull of the unknown. What impact would these revelations have on their lives? Would they tear their fragile connections apart, or could they bind them stronger than before? Just then, their eyes locked onto Helen as she prepared to share whatever secrets lay beneath the surface, and at that moment, Maya realized that this was no longer just about the past, it was about forging a new future together. What truth would unravel from Helen's lips, and how would it change everything they thought they knew? Helen took a deep breath, her expression shifting as if she were summoning the courage needed for what lay ahead. Okay, let me start from the beginning, she began, her voice trembling slightly. Years ago, I lived here, in this same town. Your grandmother, Ruth, and I were friends. But there were things kept in the shadows, things we didn't understand until much later. Maya watched as Ruth's face froze, a mixture of disbelief and old scars surfacing. It hurt to see her grandmother like this, yet it was clear that the fabric of their lives was more interwoven than they had ever known. Ruth and I shared a secret, Helen continued, her gaze steadying on Ruth. Something about the letter you wrote to Thomas back then. It wasn't just a farewell, it carried a weight that neither of us recognized at the time. It spoke of a desire for freedom, for honesty, even romance, but it also hinted at a choice, one that would change everything. Change everything? Maya echoed, her heart racing. What choice? Helen fixed her eyes on Maya, as if she was finally ready to reveal a long-buried treasure. You see, there was someone else, a boy named Charlie. He was obsessed with Ruth. He had a profound impact on this whole story, more than any of us knew. When Ruth chose not to go with him, it fractured something deep within our circle of friendships. Ruth flinched. Charlie, I thought I could leave that behind. Yup, but those decisions don't really leave us, do they? Helen whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Years later, chaos erupted. Secrets turned into rumors and hurt into betrayal. And the letter you wrote, Ruth? Well, it made its rounds. It was ripped apart, misinterpreted. It created divisions that lasted far too long. Maya could see the shadows whispering through her grandmother's eyes. She reached over, squeezing Ruth's hand. This doesn't make sense. How did you find out about all this? Helen exhaled, her shoulders dropping slightly. I started piecing things together when Charlie's name surfaced in conversations about the past. I realized he'd left town shortly after everything went down. Then I found some old photographs and Ruth's letter. It became clear that unresolved feelings lingered, like ghosts haunting our choices. Thomas shifted again, tension creeping into his posture. So these ghosts have led you back here? To tell us this? More than just to tell you, Helen replied, glancing at each person as if pulling them closer into her narrative. I want us to confront the past together. To create space for healing. The legacy of what happened isn't just about hurt, it's also about love lost and bridges that can be rebuilt. A thick silence fell in the room. Maya glanced around, her heart beating loudly against her chest. Could they really do this? Could they face the truth, unearth buried secrets, and transform their pain into something meaningful? What if confronting this doesn't resolve anything? Ruth whispered, her eyes flickering with fear. I think it can, Helen replied gently. Not by ignoring the past but by embracing our intertwined stories. We all deserve that chance. This is about building a new legacy, one that honors the truth of who we were and who we can still become. Maya felt a rush of emotions, a swell of hope pushing against the doubt. The promise of understanding and reconciliation was within reach. But as they stared into the unknown ahead, a question hung uneasily in the air. Could they really face whatever truth lay buried? Just then, a crackling noise came from the corner of the room, an old radio that must have been left on. The melody that spilled out felt hauntingly familiar. As Maya tried to remember where she'd heard it before, silence enveloped them again, and she couldn't help but wonder if the music was a sign from the universe. What was next? Would they uncover something that was meant to remain hidden, or would the notes lead them toward harmony? The song filled the room, notes dancing like whispers of a long-lost memory. Maya's heart beat faster as she recognized the tune, something her mother used to play on lazy Sundays, when warmth filled the air and laughter was easy. It was a sound that carried with it a bittersweet sense of nostalgia, pulling at threads of her own childhood. "Isn't that?" Ruth started, her voice trailing off as her eyes drifted to the radio. Maya didn't need to hear the rest. The old song seemed to resonate with their story, stitching together the past and present in a way that felt almost poetic. "Charlie loved this song," Helen murmured, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "He used to play it for Ruth. It was like his way of saying, 'I'm here.'" It was all tangled up in unspoken words and what-ifs. Maya glanced at her grandmother. Ruth's expression was a mixture of longing and regret, shadows of younger days flitting across her face. I thought those memories were buried for good," Ruth confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "I hoped I could just forget." Helen leaned in closer, a softness in her gaze. "But forgetting doesn't unmake love, does it? It doesn't erase hope either. We need to confront that part of ourselves if we're ever truly going to heal." Tension simmered in the room, and Maya felt the weight of their shared history pressing down like heavy fog. "Maybe it's time we learned to talk about it," she suggested, her voice filled with determination. "What if we each share our side of the story? What we remember? What we feel?" Ruth hesitated, uncertainty playing upon her features. "What if it only brings more pain?" "Maybe it will," Maya said softly, squeezing her grandmother's hand again. "But it's also a chance to find peace. We can't change the past, but we can decide how it affects us moving forward." Ruth took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around Maya's. "Okay. But you should know, I never thought I'd have to relive any of this." "I don't think any of us expected to be here," Thomas piped up, crossing his arms. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe we were meant to find each other again in this mess." As the radio continued to play, Helen nodded thoughtfully. "Let us start with the letter, Ruth. What was it really about? And why did you feel the need to write it?" Ruth closed her eyes for a moment, memories surfacing like bubbles breaking the surface of dark waters. It was a plea for understanding. A way to escape expectations. "But it turned into something else, something I never intended," she confessed. "I thought it would set me free, but it wound up trapping us all in a web of misunderstanding." The air in the room crackled with energy, anticipation hanging thickly. Maya was losing herself in the emotion of the moment, each revelation shaking her core. Was it possible that a simple letter could have caused such chaos? "I want to hear about Charlie," Maya urged, her eyes wide. "I want to understand how he fit into all of this and why things fell apart." Ruth hesitated, searching for the right words. She looked at Helen, as if calling upon a long-lost ally to venture back into the depths. "Charlie was everything to me, and yet everything and nothing," Helen murmured, understanding glistening in her eyes. "Perhaps we need to find the courage to let those feelings out. To share everything, so we can finally clear this fog between us." Maya held her breath, ready to plunge into the depths of family secrets. They were on the edge of revelation, and she could sense the tide turning, waves of truth ready to crash down. Would they emerge whole, or find themselves shattered under the weight of what they learned? Just then, the song shifted to a crescendo, a reflection of their emotions, hope mixed with fear. Could this journey lead to healing, to a rekindled bond between them? Or would the memories prove too much to bear? As the last notes echoed, all eyes turned towards Ruth, hearts racing, waiting for her voice to break the silence. What would she decide to reveal about Charlie and the choices that haunted them all? Ruth took a slow, deliberate breath, her eyes flickering with the weight of memories. The silence in the room was thick, as if they could all feel the history hanging between them, fragile yet insistent. It was a truth wrapped in love and loss, and Maya's heart raced, a mix of anxiety and hope beating within her. Charlie was my first love, Ruth began, her voice steadying as she spoke. In a world that tried to confine us, he was my escape. We were young and reckless, lost in the thrill of secret meetings and whispered dreams. But life has a way of complicating things. Helen nodded, her own memories rising to the surface. He was magical, wasn't he? Full of charm and laughter. But there was a darkness, too. It was always there beneath the surface. Maya leaned in closer, her chin resting against her palms. What happened? Why didn't you end up together? Ruth hesitated, her gaze shifting to the window as if searching for clarity in the past. We were so naive. When things began to get serious, I felt pressure from everyone. My family wanted something different for me. They talked about stability, about marrying someone who could provide. It felt like I was drowning under expectations. A heavy sigh escaped her lips, each word releasing the weight that had been buried for so long. I was scared of losing my family and scared of losing Charlie. I thought I could manage both worlds. She paused, gathering the courage to continue. So, I wrote the letter. I thought, perhaps, if I could find a way to explain my feelings, to dig myself out of this hole, it would be easier for everyone. I never intended for it to spiral into chaos. Helen's eyes shone with understanding. A single choice can ripple through time. I know that feeling well. We all do. Maybe we should have trusted each other more. Maya felt tears prickling at her own eyes. You loved him, didn't you? How did it end? Ruth nodded slowly. More than anything. But I pushed him away. He left. It felt like I lost not only him but a part of myself. I thought I'd buried those emotions, but hearing that song, recalling this moment. It all floods back. Ruth's fingers trembled as she clasped them tightly. I've carried that burden for decades. And when I thought I could finally move on, it haunted me. But it's not too late, Maya encouraged, her voice gentle. You can still find a way to honor that love and the memories with Charlie. What if there's a path to forgive yourself? There must be a way forward, Helen chimed in, to allow those memories to shape us, but not break us. Ruth's expression softened, and for the first time, something like light began to break through the clouds of despair. Maybe bringing it all to light will let me find peace. But there's still so much more I haven't shared, so much that could change everything. Maya leaned in, eager and anxious at once. What do you mean? What else is there? Just as she spoke, the song shifted again, its sweet melody wrapping around them like an embrace. Their eyes bore into Ruth's, holding their breaths as they hungered for more. Ruth's voice trembled again, but this time there was a spark to it. There's something I found, a keepsake of Charlie's that you don't know about. It was hidden away for years, but it could hold answers to why our love story didn't end the way I hoped. Maya's heart thundered at the thought of uncovering long-buried secrets. Would this forgotten keepsake bridge the gaps in their fractured family? Ruth, Helen urged softly, we're here to face it all together. What you found, what does it reveal? All eyes were fixed on her, and in that moment, the weight of generations hung in the air, filled with questions and a little bit of hope. What was this keepsake, and would it finally unravel the mysteries that had defined their lives? Ruth drew a deep breath, clutching the edge of the table, as if steeling herself for the revelation to come. It's more than just a letter, it's a key to understanding everything. Maya felt the tension thickening again. Could this be the moment that transforms their understanding of each other? Would they finally uncover the healing they desperately needed? Ruth glanced down, her fingers now brushing against something concealed beneath an old, worn tablecloth. The air crackled with anticipation. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her chest, almost suffocating in its intensity. Time seemed to stretch as she sought the courage to share what she had unearthed. "This," she whispered, pulling out a small, intricately carved wooden box. The surface was smooth, its edges worn from years of hiding. "This belonged to Charlie." Maya leaned in, her heart pounding, eyes wide with wonder. Helen's breath caught in her throat. They could feel the gravity of the moment. This was more than just a box, it symbolized a piece of Ruth's past, filled with secrets aching to be revealed. Slowly, Ruth opened the box, revealing its contents: several crumpled letters, faded photographs, and a delicate silver chain, glimmering even in the dim light. "I found this after he left," she said, her voice thick with emotion. I thought keeping it would somehow keep him close to me. But it became a reminder of what I lost." Maya reached out, her fingers grazing the chain, feeling its coolness against her skin. "What do the letters say?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper. Ruth took another deep breath. "They're letters I never sent. Letters that explain the pain I couldn't voice at the time. Charlie was more than a boy. He was a part of me, and I took him for granted." Helen gently placed her hand on Ruth's arm. "You were just a kid, trying to navigate a world that didn't understand you. It's never easy for young love, especially against the odds." "But these letters," Ruth replied, tears glistening in her eyes, "they were my truth. They've haunted me, reminding me of my choices every day." I wanted to explain, to make him understand why I chose to let go. The silence in the room felt alive. Each person was grappling with their own turmoil, their own fears. Maya moved closer, her heart full of empathy. "What if those letters hold the key to reopening that chapter? What if we read them together? Maybe it can help us find closure for all of us." Ruth hesitated, weighing the risks. Taking such a step meant unearthing old wounds, but perhaps healing required facing the pain head-on. With a nod, she gathered the letters, unfolding the first one with trembling fingers. "Dear Charlie," she read, the words spilling out like a long-suppressed confession. "You are my light, but I'm afraid of losing my way." Each line carried Ruth's heart, echoing the sentiment of a young girl torn between love and obligation. Maya watches her grandmother's face transform as she reads. Emotions flickered across her features: regret, longing, and ultimately a glimmer of hope. "Ruth, it's beautiful," Helen encouraged softly. "This is part of your story. All of it, messy and real. It's what makes us human." Before Ruth could respond, a sudden chirp from the mobile phone on the table sliced through the air. It was Maya's. The screen lit up with an unexpected message, and as she caught a glimpse, her heart raced. "Guys, it's from Mom," she exclaimed, her voice mixed with confusion and excitement. "She's coming over, and she says she has something huge to share about Charlie." The room fell silent once again. Ruth's eyes widened, panic swirling in their depths. Would this new revelation bring more chaos or finally connect the dots of their shared past? "This could change everything," Ruth breathed, her heart a torrent of emotions. Maya glanced at her grandmother, emotions swirling within her. Would they be ready to face whatever truths were waiting? As they prepared for the new visitor, anticipation tinged with trepidation hung in the air. What secrets had remained hidden, ready to surface in this moment of reckoning? Each of them could feel that the next step could unravel everything they thought they knew. As the door swung open, Maya's heart pounded. Her mother entered, her posture slightly rigid, holding her breath as if preparing to defuse a ticking bomb. Any moment now, everything they had uncovered, the letters, the history, the unexpected reunion, could shift in an instant. "Mom." Maya tried to inject a note of cheer into her voice. Her mother's surprised expression faltered as her gaze scanned the room and landed on the gathering. "You're all here? What is going on?" Ruth looked nervously at Thomas and Helen, then back to her daughter. "Maya, we were just..." Ruth, her mother interjected, her voice steely but gentle. "I think it's time for the truth about Charlie." Maya felt the world shrink. "What do you mean?" "Years ago, when I was growing up, I didn't understand everything that happened between you and Charlie. I was just a child. But as I got older, I started putting pieces together that I wish I could have understood back then. Ruth's breath shook as she met her daughter's gaze. I never meant to keep anything from you, I just wanted to protect you. Tension thickened the air, their collective heartbeats drummed loudly. Protect us from what? Maya pressed, deep-rooted curiosity igniting. Her mother hesitated before clearly gathering her courage, from the truth, from the pain that wrapped around Charlie. The truth that could be destroyed what family we have left. Mom, please, Maya urged gently. We've come this far, let us hear it. With a soft exhale, her mother nodded, the weight of many years resting visibly on her shoulders. Charlie struggled after he and Ruth split. I didn't understand how deep his feelings ran. He felt isolated, caught between love for your grandmother and what society expected of him, like he had been thrown aside. Ruth's eyes brimmed with tears, unsteady memories flooding back. I thought I made the right choice, but all I did was push him away. I thought he could just forget, she whispered, vulnerability evident in her softened voice. Maya, Charlie never truly let go, her mother continued. After he left, he was deeply affected. He married someone else hoping it would heal him, but it led to so many regrets and heartache. Maya felt a rush of emotions swirl as she connected the faded puzzle pieces. Mom, did he ever find what he wanted? Her mother looked down. He searched for peace but found sorrow instead. He would reach out sometimes, asking about Ruth, wanting to reach back, but it wasn't until I received news about him years later that I realized how much pain remained. Silence swelled, pressing against them with the weight of lost potential. What happened? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Taking a breath, her mother's voice trembled. He passed away not long after. But in his last moments, he left a letter for you, Ruth, a sort of goodbye. He wanted you to know you were loved, truly cherished. That love had shaped him across all those years. Maya turned to watch her grandmother. Ruth clutched the silver chain gently, the air around her thick with unarticulated emotions. Had Charlie felt trapped, just like them? Where's the letter? Ruth demanded softly, her voice determined, seeking some final form of closure. Maya's mother shifted uncomfortably. It was never delivered. I found it after his passing, tucked away with his belongings. I thought it was time to bring it to you. I didn't realize you would all be here together. I had hoped the letter could find you, perhaps bring some sense of peace. As her mother breathed deeply and fished the envelope from her pocket, the room seemed to hold its breath. Maya moved closer, sensing a deeper connection lived within the space. They all shared this tragic legacy, the hurt, the longing, and the love. Ruth's hands trembled as the envelope was carefully placed into her palm. After all these years, she murmured, he never stopped thinking about me. Her eyes glistened, hopeful and afraid all at once. Maybe there's a chance to finally heal. Thomas reached out, squeezing Ruth's shoulder gently. You're not just a part of the past anymore. You can honor that love while still moving forward. Embrace what comes next. Glancing at the letter, Ruth took a deep breath, heart pounding with every word held within. I need to read this. I've waited too long. Around them, unanswered questions danced in the air. Could they finally process the tangled web of love, loss, and forgiveness? As she opened the letter, the faintest smile began to bloom on Ruth's lips. Maya felt a wave of hope wash over her. They were getting closer to understanding one another. The moment stretched as Ruth read aloud, her voice steady despite the tears spilling over. Dear Ruth, I hope this letter finds you. I want you to know that my love for you never faded. Each phrase rang with sincerity, echoing not just across the years but also around the room. Maya felt the warmth between them grow. They were coming together, not just in shared history, but in shared healing. As Ruth continued reading, the essence of love unspooled, wrapping around them like a soft embrace, reminding each of them that their pasts were not just burdens to bear but also legacies to honor in their own lives moving forward. When Ruth finally finished reading, silence enveloped the room. But it was a silence filled with understanding, hope, and the promise of new beginnings. Maya glanced at her mother, then across to Thomas and Helen. They were all connected, intertwined, with threads of history that bound them tightly together. "This is it," Maya declared, her voice steady. "Together, let us commit to nurture the legacies we carry and build a future that's loving and honest. No more hiding, just embracing all parts of our stories." Ruth nodded slowly, her face radiant with new light. "Let us embrace our pasts, every piece of it, and move toward what lies ahead." And just like that, they embarked on a journey of renewal and transformation, a path woven with shared love and resilience. As the song on the radio faded into comfortable silence, the renewed hope filled the room, a promise of peace drifting gently, like the breath of a family reclaimed, forever bound by the love that defined them. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to this channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. We need your help to reach more hearts. Comment your reactions and feelings about this touching ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Each action makes a difference, and only true fans understand how important your support is.